So Jack Dorsey is now leaving Twitter. He has resigned as CEO of Twitter, and we have the new guy, Parag Agrawal, who was the chief technical officer of Twitter. Now he's going to be taking over as the CEO of Twitter. A lot of people are happy that Jack Dorsey is leaving. I am happy that Jack Dorsey is leaving. But on the flip side, I know it's not going to make a difference. It's actually going to probably get worse. Twitter is going to probably censor more and be even more authoritarian because this new CEO is just as bad as Dorsey, if not worse. Look, Dorsey was a terrible chief executive. If you go by the standards of what it means to be a chief executive, i.e., to grow the business, to make profit for the business, to run a healthy business, in his case, because Twitter is a public company, to add value to shareholders, well then, Jack Dorsey was an absolutely terrible CEO. But if you go by the standards of today's clown world, which is to be a CEO of a company is to be woke, is to censor, is to discourage free speech, is to divide the nation, the country, is to ban people if it's to push a certain identity politics narrative, to push a deep state narrative, well, then Jack Dorsey was a good CEO. If you go by those standards, as far as wokeness goes, Jack Dorsey did a great job. And yes, he did run Twitter into the ground, but, hey, he's going to get a pat on the back because he managed to divide the country further and to create a lot of hate online and offline. So he did an absolutely fantastic job there. But as a chief executive, in the traditional sense, he was god-awful. The new guy, from what it looks like, this CTO, who is now CEO, Mr. Agrawal, is more of an ideologue than Dorsey was. If you go by some of the tweets and some of the statements he has made during interviews. Of course, that could all change when he becomes a CEO. Maybe he'll be more normal instead of clownish, but who knows? Dorsey was a clown in every sense of the word, from his appearance to the way he acted. I mean, the guy was just a complete, it was clown world. It was woke clown world with Dorsey. This guy, maybe he's going to be more normal. At least he looks normal, but will he act in a normal fashion? Will he look to deliver value to shareholders? Will he look to somehow find some sort of revenue model, some sort of profit model for Twitter? It remains to be seen. I think he's not going to be doing any of that. My hunch is, by reading some of the statements that he's made, that this guy is just as much of a woke identity politics ideologue. I hate the First Amendment, free speech sucks kind of guy that Dorsey was. That's the way it looks like with this guy. But we'll wait and see. Let's wait and see. There's no doubt that Dorsey just did an absolutely terrible job at Twitter. He's going to go down in history as the first CEO, the first person to actually ban a sitting U.S. president. He'll go down in history for that. He'll go down in history for his appearances in front of Congress, where he looked, half baked and completely out of it as he was fielding questions from senators and people and lawmakers in the United States. If you went by very strict standards, he lied a lot. During those testimonies, no doubt about it. He said many fibs. He'll go down in history as a CEO who pissed off Russia, because Russia wanted Twitter to remove much of its adult content, and Dorsey would not remove it. He would not follow Russian law and remove that, so he pissed off Russia. He'll go down in history as pissing off many world leaders from India. Modi, he pissed off Modi. He pissed off Uganda. The Uganda elections had to actually block Twitter in order to have some sort of free and fair elections. Boy, did the guy really mess up big time. Look, Twitter is now just a place for blue check marks to sound off. It's not really a place where you can have free and open conversation. It is not the town square as it once marketed itself to be. When Twitter first came out, it was so proud to say it was the town square. This was back in the day when the real founder of Twitter, the real person that came up with Twitter, Evan Williams, who now has Medium. He actually went on to create Medium, the blogging platform, but he was the real founder and brains behind Twitter. Jack Dorsey was one of the developers that managed to maneuver himself into the position of CEO, but he was definitely, from what I understand, not one of the chief drivers of the business in its early days. But anyway, it is what it is. He got the position as CEO, not once but twice. This was actually his second turn as CEO. And his second turn was worse than his first turn as CEO. So we got the new guy, Parag Agrawal. And this guy has made some really interesting statements. Very alarming statements. One of the tweets that he sent out is this one. If they are not going to make a distinction between Muslims and extremists, then why should I distinguish between white people and racists? So he's obviously got this everything is about white, white, white kind of thing in him. That's not good. That is not good at all. He's definitely going to play the race card a whole bunch. Not good at all. When he was giving an interview at MIT, and this is from Reclaim the Net, that found this gem, where Agrawal says, our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment. It's not off to a good start. Our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment, but our role is to serve a healthy public conversation, and our moves are reflective of things that we believe lead to a healthier public conversation. The kind of things that we do about this is focus less on thinking about free speech, but thinking about how the times have changed. One of the changes today that we see is speech is easy on the internet. Most people can speak. Where our role is particularly emphasized is who can be heard. The scarce commodity today is attention. There's a lot of content out there, a lot of tweets out there. Not all of it gets attention. Some subset of it gets attention. And so increasingly our role is moving towards how we recommend content. And that sort of is a struggle that we're working through in terms of how we make sure these recommendation systems that we're building, how we direct people's attention in leading to a healthy public conversation that is most participatory. So obviously he has complete disdain for the First Amendment and for free speech. He's saying right here in this quote with MIT, and of course he could change his views as he grows into the CEO position. But right away you see that as CTO, he hates free speech. He wants to figure out ways to amplify other voices that he considers, that he'll probably consider more important in his ecosystem. He's going to try to figure out ways to amplify voices which Twitter deems to be important, amplify views which Twitter deems to be of significance. And of course, you can make the assumption that those views that Twitter will amplify under this CEO will be woke, identity politics woke stuff, the Democrat Party line, and of course, big business, the companies that pay to have their tweets elevated and amplified. So he's going to cater pretty much to the neoliberal dogma and the neoliberal agenda. And of course, if you go by his comment here during this interview with MIT, if he's talking about amplifying certain voices and making certain voices heard, while not being just a free speech platform, being a platform that amplifies voices, well then, in order to amplify some voices, you're going to have to lower others, and you're going to have to censor and ban others, because you can't raise up one without lowering another. So expect a lot more censorship, a lot more deplatforming, a lot more shadow banning from this guy. And I think we have a clear understanding which accounts, which tweets, which voices will be pushed up, and which accounts and which tweets will be pushed down. So that is Agrawal. You got to remember that this guy is a CTO, and as a CTO, his whole job is to figure out algorithms to manipulate content, right? That's his job. His job is creating the algorithms instead of just having a timeline. Remember when Twitter was a timeline? It was just, the latest tweet was up top and you would just go down in timeline order and there were no algorithms manipulating things. Well, CTOs like this guy, his job is to create these algorithms that will add scoring systems and push stuff up and push stuff down and ban people and promote people and all these things. So it's probably in his nature to continue to follow a line where you're going to have censorship on the one hand and amplification of wokeness and misinformation from the mainstream media and all these things on the other hand. So, out with the old boss, in with the new boss. And the new boss is just as bad, if not worse, than the old boss. At least Dorsey, you could make this argument with Dorsey. At least he provided us a lot of entertainment. He provided us a lot of talking points. And his whole kind of Zen stoner vibe that he would give out, especially when you saw him testifying in front of Congress. You have to admit, it did provide us with a lot of entertainment. It left a lot of us scratching our heads. How the heck did this guy end up being CEO of a company? How did that even happen? So, it is what it is. But, one thing we're not talking about with Dorsey is that, like many CEOs right now, he is cashing out. And a lot of CEOs are cashing out because I believe a lot of CEOs, they see the writing on the wall. Either they see the writing on the wall or they've been tipped off about the writing on the wall. Inflation, currency crash, perhaps a global conflict, the Great Reset, all of these things. So a lot of CEOs are checking out. They're leaving the game. They're taking their money. They're taking their shares. They're taking their millions and billions, and they're disappearing. Maybe they're getting a bunker in New Zealand or something built for them. Dorsey is CEO of Square, which is like a PayPal kind of knockoff, and Square's trying to get into the cryptocurrency game. Dorsey is trying to become a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin kind of evangelist, which is a grift because Dorsey is a latecomer to Bitcoin and speaking up about Bitcoin. But in much the same way that he maneuvered his way to become CEO of Twitter, I think he's trying to maneuver his way to become one of the big, Bitcoin kind of dudes out there. And so that's his next grift is going to be an evangelist for Bitcoin. He's choosing definitely the right industry. There's no doubt that the future is, in my opinion, it is in crypto and it is in Bitcoin. And it's also a great way to, once again, not financial advice, but it does appear to be a great way to hedge against the coming collapse that perhaps Dorsey has either one, been tipped off about. Maybe that was his reward for doing such a bang-up job at Twitter, that the powers that be tipped him off and said, okay, Dorsey, take your gains and you can leave now. Job well done. Or he just understands where things are going, and like so many other CEOs, he's taking his money and he's moving onward. But a lot of CEOs have stepped down in the past couple of years because I think they realize what's about to come. So not many people are talking about that, but I believe that has motivated Dorsey to get out of the game. He'll still be CEO from what I understand of Square, but Square is definitely positioning itself to be more of a crypto type of play than a traditional type of payment provider. Anyway, guys, that's the video. The Duran.locals.com, Rumble, BitChute, ODYSEE, and SuperU is where you'll find the video. And go to the Duran shop, 10% off all our mugs and our t-shirts. Use the code REALNEWS. Take care.